All right, today I'm at TAS. It's one of our local 9-hole courses here in Peterborough. It's at a local high school and it's kind of windy, but that's also kind of a good thing because I'm testing out the Destroyer. Now I've got the Destroyer in 2 plastics, the G-Star, which I've owned this one for a while, and the Star Destroyer. You don't see me throw these very often because I don't really have the arm speed for it. But that's where a day like today, where you've got a little bit of a headwind, the Destroyer actually starts to become a good thing, that extra stability. The other thing is I've been really working on my form and trying to get better at that. So have I gotten better and am I now more able to throw a Destroyer? Is this a disc maybe I should try? Now, if you've looked at the thumbnail, you know that it's not about throwing the Destroyer today. And you're right, it's really about the time lapse. Now this is the original time lapse that was released last year, 2024. And you know, it's been a very popular disc. A lot of people throw it, but one of the people who stopped kind of throwing it was Simon Lizotte. He now though has a retooled time lapse. And so I'm gonna test out the original V1, the retooled V2 against the Star and G-Star Destroyer. Just gonna play here at TAS. It's more about the CTP than the actual scores, and we're gonna drive these 4 discs and see how they do. See if, does this retooled time lapse, is it more straight, more throwable than the original? Like what Simon and MVP have said, G-Star Destroyer to start. Okay, I've released a little bit of hyzer, but that's not terrible. Star Destroyer. Well, that's a much flatter release. A little too high. The V1 of the time lapse. Oh, that's low and much more overstable. It did not want to go flat at all. All right, moment of truth. First throw with the retooled time lapse. Now the retooled time lapse is supposed to be a -1.2 instead of a -1.3. It's supposed to be just a little bit straighter, a little bit less overstable, which is what Simon had wanted. Okay. That one, I was able to keep that one straight for a lot longer. And yes, there was a bit of a headwind, which I think also kind of works against me because that headwind is like stopping the disc from getting that full speed. Just for a fun one, I'm gonna throw a shot with the trail just to see. So trail was a lot lower. I released it a lot lower. It actually flipped up because that was too much hyzer. But let's see how the distance is. All right, so the V1 time lapse, like I said, much more overstable. It is the shortest. It's right over here. Kind of surprising to me was that the G-Star Destroyer is a little bit shorter. But I think that's because I gave it more hyzer by accident, but it had more hyzer just from the word go. Now the Star Destroyer didn't get any ground play at all. You can see it right where it struck into the ground. It's actually the farthest, but the new V2 time lapse was right beside. And it's actually, I would not be unhappy with that throw on a tournament day. Now the trail went the farthest. Like I said, I released it with some hyzer, but it flipped up to flat and it went pretty straight, pretty long. It was a little bit low. So it kind of had like a lot of the ideals. Had I thrown it flat, it probably would have ended up, with how it flipped up, it would have ended up way over. But had I thrown it flat with a little bit of height, I don't know. Gonna go from where the V1 time lapse was to try and make the second shot with them all. So that's a equal second CTP. Maybe gave it a little bit too much hyzer. That was the V2. Here's the Star Destroyer. Well, that one's great. Here's the G-Star Destroyer. It's a little bit short. The V1 time lapse Now this one I'm really gonna try and get flat because I know it's more overstable. It was a little bit wider, a little bit flatter, and it still just comes out. Here's the trail. See, in the trail I gave a little bit, I think, more hyzer than the destroyers and the time lapses. And it still flipped up, so it was less overstable and glided very well. Okay, V2 was a little bit short. Like I said, I gave it just a little bit too much hyzer. The trail and the Star Destroyer are pretty much the same distance, with the G Star Destroyer just slightly behind. And I did, like I said, it was a little bit wide, but it's actually wasn't too bad. All right, hole 2 here. It's another one. It's a long drive. It's par 4. Usually takes me a couple of shots to even get a look at the basket. Star Destroyer. So far, it seems to be doing the best for me. Now, the Star Destroyer is kind of beat in. Martin Handel used it for a little while. G Star Destroyer. That's a better throw. The thing is, like, these aren't even, I have had better throws, better drives than these discs are giving me. So I think the answer to the first question is, can I throw a Destroyer better now? It's still no. V2 time lapse. But the second question is, does the V2 fly better than the V1 for me? Here's the V1. And the answer, I think, is a resounding yes. That V2 is not coming out of the overstability. It is not, like, it just is dumping. It's getting more overstable right away. Like, more hyzer right away. It's dumping right away. Where the V2, I am getting it to hold the line for a little bit. Trail. Trail is easily getting farther than everything else for me. And one more driver that I throw a lot is the inertia. And it's up there with the trail. Just for science's sake, I'm gonna try the cookie here. Because the cookie, it's only a 7-speed, but it's my stable 7-speed. So it's kind of, I think, probably gonna be hitting right around where the V2 time lapses and the Destroyers have been hitting. And is that true? Or is the cookie gonna go farther? Now the cookie should go straighter first. Like that. I think that cookie went farther. Like, I think that where my arm speed is, that trying to hit the 300-foot mark, I'm still not at a spot where the Destroyer or time lapse should be in my bag yet. Once again, the V1 time lapse is the shortest one. It just bails out way too quickly. Shortest this time is the Star Destroyer. Was a little bit back, followed by the time lapse. Now here's what actually surprises me. The G Star Destroyer is a foot shorter than the inertia, which is a 1.5 feet shorter than the cookie. I really thought the inertia went a little bit farther. And about 12 feet, 11 feet ahead of the cookie is the trail. So once again, I am not doing myself any favors by throwing a Destroyer. I'm better off throwing a trail. Now the inertia being behind the cookie is kind of shocking to me. So I'm now gonna have to do some more testing with that. G-Star. It's OB, but we ignore OB for these. Star. V1. See, he just dumps. I did get a flat release on that. he just dumps. V2. I do like how that flies. It flies very well. So far that V2 has won me over. Trail. But the trail is just so perfect. All right, testing, cookie. And for more testing, the inertia. That was on a hill. It was not the most comfortable footing, but no matter how hard I'm trying to throw this disc, the V1 just is not getting the push. It's just dumping right away. Star, Destroyer, and the G Star, basically the same distance. Again, what it came down to was the G Star, I didn't push out quite as wide as the Star, but the distances on them was pretty much the same. Much more what I expected this time was the cookie was shorter than the inertia. So that up there was just that I didn't throw the inertia quite properly enough. And the inertia is actually probably closest to the pin, but it's pretty close between it and the trail. That would have to be actually lasered to tell. Surprisingly, the V2 got a lot farther. Now it did roll, so I'm not sure exactly where it landed. How did it roll forward, straight? I don't know, should be pretty close. The V2 is actually right up there beside the trail. Start. Ooh, little bit short still. Got to give it just a little bit. G-Star. Oh, I'm not giving it any more. I got it less. V1. Oh, grip locked. V2. That's what I needed. Bingo. Now, clearly V1 lost. Winner is definitely V2. He's right there. And like I thought, the Star didn't quite give it enough, but it was close. Oop, whoops. And the G-Star gave it a little bit less than the Star, but still did better than the V1. So, you know, take the wins where they can get them, I guess. But that one 100% came down to thrower errors, not to disc, how good is a disc versus another. Now, Canadian Championships is this coming weekend. And with the championships this weekend, I've been thinking a lot about my bag. You know, should I be adjusting things? Should I be making changes to my bag? Especially because I have so many discs and my form has changed. I've been pretty happy with it. And, you know, I did a in the bag before a couple of tournaments back in April. And it has changed a little bit since then, but not a lot. I've been pretty happy with it. We've made it to the infamous hole 3. I say infamous because for myself, I always think I can get this hole and I never do it. So we're gonna try it today. I always think I should be able to get this with a mid and I never make it far enough. So V1. I put Anheuser on that and it came out immediately. Star. Oh, that did not. Oh, no. Yeah. Oh. G-Star. Again, I'm releasing these early now. They're slipping. V2. I think I should do that again because that forced Anheuser on the V1 worked out really well and the other 3 kind of slipped. I tried to put forced Anheuser on them. I don't usually rethrow discs, especially if I'm doing a course review video or if I'm just playing. I don't think I'm a good enough player that I need to pretend to be good for you guys. I'm gonna be who I am. But with a disc review, I do think that sometimes, you know, user error doesn't show you what a disc can do. User error shows you how bad I am, not how good a disc is. And with a course review video, user error shows you how good the course is, because, you know, user error happens and you screw up, you got to get out. That shows you that the course can have teeth. Whereas with a disc, it just shows you I did bad. Now, the G-Star did the worst, then the Star, with the two time lapses being nearly identical in distance. The V1 just a little bit better, but I think that's because the V2 hit a tree, but the V2 also went down a hill a little bit farther. So V1 didn't give it as much anhyzer, and it just came out. Be happy with that with this disc, but V2. Okay, did really good until it hit a tree. Star. I would be happy with that shot on any day. G-Star. Those two are perfect. And again, that shows you like the user error. The first time I threw the V1 on this hole, perfect for that disc. This time, not great. The V2 threw it technically well, just missed the line. So it went really far for me. This time it was going a little farther, but just a little too pulled over, it hit a tree. Just for distance comparison, the river. River does not have the overstability, but the distance is the same. Okay, so V1, V2, both of them were kind of short, pretty equally. Really, the V2 was a little bit farther behind, but like 6 inches maybe. But the real kicker was that the V1 had so much more room to go. I just was just a little bit too, like I gave it the right anhyzer, but I pulled a little bit too far at the same time, because I was really trying to give it this space. And had it been about 6 inches left towards the water here, towards the basket, it would have made it around that tree, curved in, probably been the best throw. But the two destroyers are equal. The thing is, the river is longer than it needs to be. It just needed to, if it had faded out, it would have been perfect. Okay, one last hole. I came here to hole 9 alternative, because this is a forehand hole. And I haven't shown any forehands. Everything else is gonna be pretty much the same. You can tell by the scores how these discs are doing. You can tell by my first couple holes that I'm better off, you know, sticking with other discs right now. They're doing the same thing for me, just I throw them better. But let's try a forehand hole. This hole is one that I can get with a mid on a backhand that turns, but you know, it's good. That's a V1. It's good to just try new things sometimes and put a disc through all the paces before you pronounce a judgment. Here's the Star. That was high. G-Star. That was a better throw. All right, and V2. And again, just for a comparison, the Cookie. And what I normally would do is this Lobster on backhand. This is worse, it's actually the V2 in this case. Went a little bit deep, hit the trees, not like deep into the trees. V1 right there with them. I'm surprised that the Lobster is as short as it is, because I do normally throw that disc and get it to land closer to the pin. The Star Destroyer was a little behind the Cookie, which was just slightly behind the G-Star. Now the G-Star, I knew when it came out that it threw well on that, and I was happy with that. But the Cookie, when it came out, I immediately was like, that felt nice, and it flew nice. I think this wind is probably what kind of knocked them both down, of hit the wind and just hit the brakes. Probably what happened with the lobster as well. Now, I had a couple of questions when I started this video. One, is my form such that I should be throwing the destroyer now, that the destroyer is flying well for me? And I think the answer is sometimes, but not consistently enough to be a place where I should be pulling this out. You know, I think we saw that the cookie being just as far, sometimes a little bit farther, but like mostly the same distance or farther, and the cookie's more consistent, that's what I should go with. Even though the odd time, the destroyers did beat the cookie. I think we saw that as far as distance goes, the trail has been doing better for me. The thing is, the trail and the inertia are not overstable enough, but that's why I have the FX3 in my bag. So I think that right now, answer one, this 12-speed slot doesn't belong in my bag. Question two was, is the V2 an improvement over the V1? They're both 175 gram discs. They're both basically in a very similar state of, whereas I've only tested this on grassy open throws. I think I hit more trees with this today than I did last time with this, because I didn't play it at a real course. And I didn't really hit much with this either. So the comparison between the two, their flight, I think is fair and valid. And this V1 is just, it dumps hard right away. This one, I could get it to throw straight. It would fly straight for a bit and then dump off. It is doing what I expect a 12-speed destroyer-ish disc to do at my arm. It just isn't there for me quite yet. Again, the beat-in destroyers were just a little bit farther on average. They're beat in. They're both, or one's a G-Star, it's a little less beat in. There's a Star that's been really beat in by some pro-level players. So I think this could get to a spot where it's better, but for me, it is an improvement over the V1. The V1 just, it misses it. It's like a Firebird for me. It just is gonna come right out. And maybe that could be a reason to put it in the bag, but I have the Spice there right now, and it's doing that. The V2 is almost there. And so I just got a little bit more work to do, and I'm gonna try again.